Hey guys, and welcome to episode 54 of the Garage Athlete Show on what is friendlyly known as T-shirt off Thursdays because it is hot as balls at the moment. Is it really humid up in Newcastle as well?
Yeah, a little bit, not too bad, but I think it's about like, I don't know, 18, 19 degrees or so. It's nice.
Fair enough. It's been really humid here all day. Like, you know, when it's like threatening to rain or there'd be a thunderstorm. And obviously it's Willow's birthday tomorrow, so we are going to go to
happy birthday, Willow.
Have you ever heard of Sundown Adventureland?
Sunderland Adventureland?
No, Sundown Adventureland.
I have not, no.
Yeah. Well, basically it's a theme park for like toddlers. So lots and lots of toddler-sized theme park rides, etc. So we went once before when she was a lot smaller and she loved it. So we're going to go again tomorrow. And when we looked at the weather like 2 or 3 days ago, it was saying it was going to be like torrential rain. But now it's like there's only 30% chance of rain. So hopefully she'll have a good time. Oh, you still there? Sorry, I thought you were frozen.
Yeah, sorry, I think that my internet's a bit dodgy. But no, it should be good, man. Where did I go? Where did I go? I went to, I think it's Lightwater Valley. I don't know if that's too far from you. That was really good. If anyone's looking
for near York?
Yes, anyone in the north to take their kids somewhere, I recommend that.
Yeah. So is that the one with the massive wooden roller coaster?
I don't know. I went to, yeah, I think so. I think it was off when I went because it was just as the first restrictions got lifted. So it wasn't on.
We went to Lightwater Valley when I think it was the May, but we didn't know Natalie was actually pregnant with Willow at the time. She literally must have got pregnant like 2 weeks before. So we've just said it was that roller coaster. It's like what forced the egg like into the wall. We went on that roller coaster like 10 times because Josh was only like 8, so he was just above the height limit. So it's the first like proper roller coaster he'd ever been on, and we went in May half term or something like that. Whereas it wasn't half term in Yorkshire. So it was really quiet. So we could literally get off, go straight back on, get off, go straight back on. We must have gone on it 10 times. It was great.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, I remember when Mads was pregnant with Connor, we didn't know she was pregnant. We went on this ride in Orlando, and it was like, I think it's like this simulator you get launched into space kind of thing. And she got so sick. I'm not kidding. I was like, yeah, that pregnancy didn't work. Like she had to lie down for like, mate, it must have been something like 40 minutes. We were just sat there. Like, well, I was sat there. She was lying down. I was like, I think I need to get someone. Like, I mean, she came around, but it was a little bit scary. If I'm honest, it wasn't great. Yeah, don't recommend taking her. I think she was in just sort of middle of her first trimester, so she was proper sick. And I was like, oh man, this isn't very good. But I was more like, mate, I'm missing out on all the rides. Can you hurry up here? Come on. I've got to go to Marvel World. Come on. Well, Claudia's still here, so it's all good. But yeah, it was good.
Well, we're wanting to go to Florida next year. We're hoping, so we're going to take the kids. It'll technically be our honeymoon, but we're going to take the kids in either the summer or the autumn. It all depends on what's happening with the world, whether America's opened back up by then, which you hope it will, like spring, summer next year. But yeah, we're just waiting to see, because I think Ben might be doing his A levels that year, so we might just have to. We're gonna have to work it around his exams and stuff. So fun times. But yeah, obviously tonight we had a guest lined up, but they have been called away last minute. So thank you to those guys in the Home Gym UK group who did post up some questions for us. So we haven't done a Q&A in a little while. Next time we do one, I'll probably plan it a little bit better and get a series of questions to come in. So we've got 4 to answer for you guys today. So because there's 4, be nice, short, sharp, episode. We'll go into as much detail as needed without kind of over expanding on things, and then let you guys crack on with the rest of your day. So first question is from James Sargent. He's got one for each training, nutrition, and then the home gym. So training, does training conventional deadlifts help with your sumo deadlift? I'll let you take this one because I'm guessing you'll know more about deadlifts than I will.
Yeah, I mean, the simple answer is yes, it will help with deadlifts. Some very famous, I guess, powerlifters sort of swear by. I think his name's Kyle Whitman. He was quite big on the scene a couple of years ago. I think he was the first guy to deadlift like 420 maybe at 100 kilos body weight, I think. And he's a big, don't quote me on that, but yeah, he did that. And he quoted saying, he trains a lot of conventional, almost all the time he trains conventional, and then he switches to sumo as he gets closer to a meet, because he thinks conventional builds his sumo that much that when he changes, he's got all this working, say, potentially weaknesses maybe, or areas that he potentially misses because his technique, and he's like almost flawless at the deadlift. Like his positioning is just insane. Like, when someone like sets up at the bar and it almost looks like they've already finished the lift before they've even started, just the positions they get into. Like Yuri Belkin's just another one where it's like, oh, fucking hell. Like they're just already set up and everything is biomechanically perfect for a deadlift. And that's why sometimes you see, they're crazy strong as well. But you see these light guys lifting insane amounts of weights. A, because they're strong, and B, because they're just so suited for it, or they've just absolutely maximized their leverages. So by him doing a conventional deadlift, he's not maximizing his leverages, like his his hip opening up and where the bar tracks. So he's actually working harder, much the reasons I would probably say to build your normal deadlift, work on stuff like stiff leg deadlifts, because quite a lot of times you'll fail a deadlift because you get out of position. So if you've got the strength, say if your hips shoot up a little bit and you've built that posterior chain up through a stiff leg deadlift, then you probably can muscle it up. Whereas it's the same theory with sumo, that by doing conventional, you're really hammering the posterior chain maybe slightly more than you would work the sumo deadlift, though you probably potentially want more sort of hips and abductors. That it's very beneficial. I would say the next question would be, how good are you at sumo deadlifting? For example, if you're new to it and you want to build it purely with conventional, it's not going to work because you've probably got some work to do to get technically proficient at it. So it could be that you have to spend a lot of time doing sumo to perfect it because you haven't spent enough time doing it to maximize your leverages and your techniques, your positions. And then the option is do a couple of days a week deadlifting, which is my preferred route for most people. So you do like one day of your sumo deadlifts and do another day of conventional deadlifts. Like that can work. Same for some people that pull conventional. I'd recommend having a go at sumo just to learn A, how it feels, and B, you'll probably use some muscles that don't necessarily get used. Like everyone sort of gravitates normally towards what they feel strongest at, how they feel strongest. Like you'll see some people that will squat with their feet almost like a split squat, or not split squat, like sumo style, like feet really wide out. You'll see guys and girls squat really narrow. You'll see people sort of doing different things, bar placements or different things, and you'll see internet people go, oh, you should try this, you should do this, oh, you should try that. And it's like, well, you don't know how that weight feels for them in that position. So for me, I actually squat fairly narrow because of kind of the way I'm built and where my strengths lie. So when I go wider, I almost feel like I'm in no man's land. Like this just does, you just know it just doesn't feel comfortable. You don't feel confident in it. So to go back to the point, the deadlifting conventional can be super beneficial for sumo, much the same way sumo could potentially help the deadlift.
Yeah, so I think this is one of the areas where I think bodybuilding does it a lot, where there's a lot of crossover between exercises. Obviously that's two different deadlift variations, but somebody asked me the other day like about squats and leg press, like what's the crossover. So in that one, basically if you improve your squat, you will improve your leg press. However, improving your leg press won't necessarily improve your squat, and the reason behind that is the technicalities kind of like behind it. So the squat, is a technically more difficult movement. There's a skill component involved, there's a balance component involved, your body is moving through space. There's obviously also a strength component involved. And 9 times out of 10 for the average person, unless they have been squatting for a long time, they are probably going to fail technically before muscularly on a squat. So your technique basically starts to break down a long time before the muscles fatigue. Whereas with a leg press, because you're locked into position, there's only one plane of motion, there's a lot less technically that can go wrong. So it's a lot easier to take the hamstrings, the glutes, and the quads actually to muscular fatigue, which is why you'll find a lot of bodybuilders like favor the leg press over the squat. So when it kind of comes to, in terms of the technicalities of both lifts, I think both sumo and conventional deadlifts are quite technically proficient lifts. So like, as Dan said, if you are new to either of them, if you've only ever deadlifted sumo, you will still be relatively weak at the conventional just because of the skill acquisition part. You've still got to acquire that skill of that exercise. And same thing, kind of like vice versa. Whenever you try a new exercise, there is always going to be a skill acquisition phase where you aren't actually able to apply the maximum amount of strength you have within that exercise. And that's what a lot of people forget, that when you throw something new in there, there's that initial phase where you're learning it.
Yeah, totally. Sometimes you'll go backwards before you'll go forwards. Like when I sort of switched to the more well, basically, but when I've tried sumo a couple of times, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't feel right. I just can't get to the position. Everything feels off. Whereas conventionals always come fairly naturally to me to get into the position to how it feels. But then when I first tried low bar squatting, like putting the bars like low down my back, I couldn't stand it. I hated it. It just felt awful. It just wasn't comfortable. I couldn't figure it out. And then after a couple of months, it was something like, oh fuck, I can now squat. I think my low bar compared to my high bar is about 30 kilos heavier, just to give you some sort of idea of how biomechanically it's a much stronger position for me. So maximizing leverage is there. So we've touched on it before, like maximizing your leverage isn't necessarily the right idea if your aim is to build the most amount of muscle possible. I mean, it can be, because you can still shift, higher weight, higher volume, build that kind of stuff. But at the same time, shifting the bar higher up might get you working other muscle groups higher. So much the way to build your sumo deadlift, you'd conventional deadlift, same with squats. To build your low bar squats, high bar squats, it's probably the simplest thing you can do. To build your high bar squat, front squat, like it's just, you kind of change the position of the bar to make it a bit harder. It's funny, like I sort of tangent stuff here now, but you sort of mentioned technique with deadlifts. Like I can't remember who it was. I think it was like I was on the Powercast. Maybe they were saying when you do a conventional deadlift, it's like you just sort of go in there and just sort of fucking go balls deep, just aggressive, just rip it off the floor. Like it's kind of straight there. It's like almost like dry humping. No, it's like dry going in without any lube. When you do a sumo deadlift, it's more about taking your time, getting all the right positions, making sure everything feels really good. It's more like making love. Like, so more like, what was it? Yeah, that was it. Sumo's making love and conventional's just straight in there fucking. And when you think about that, it's quite funny. Yeah. When you watch the sumo guys, it's kind of already like taking their time position, really thinking
just
about
like big breathe in, just
yeah. When you think of conventional, it's like you'll see some.
Yeah.
Like I had a good discussion.
Monstrous guy just scream his head off and grab the bar and just go.
Fucking the girls as well. They're crazy strong at the moment as well. Do the same thing. Some of them, like I think on Lucy something deadlift like 300 kilos at the Ultimate Strongman. It was insane. But I had this interesting discussion on my Facebook. I was like, "What's the best lift? Is it deadlift or squat?" And everyone's like, "Oh, deadlift." Everyone deadlift. But my answer was, "Well, it's the squat, in my opinion." And they're like, "Well, why?" I'm like, it's rare. Simply put, it's rare you'll see someone completely, for lack of a better term, mong up a squat. Rag it up, use awful technique, just get it up. You don't often see people really just brute, power through a squat without some form of technique. I can guarantee you've seen at least a handful of people come to deadlift and lift quite a lot of weight very quickly without any technique. So they just literally, you see all the time where people kind of almost like stiff leg it up, like just wrench it up, and they're still lifting. For people that haven't really trained, you can hit a 4-plate deadlift pretty quickly. If you've got obviously some size behind you, and you can kind of go in and just do it. Whereas you won't necessarily see people do that in the squat.
Oh, you'd get buried under 4 plates in the squat if you didn't have your technique. But that's a very, very interesting point there. I've had to join a commercial gym for leg days at the moment, just because I've been having some issues with my neighbours. I won't get into that, but it's just easier just to I'll pay my 30 quid a month. It's 24-hour access, so I can go in when it's nice and quiet. But the other day I had to train at a relatively peak time, so I couldn't even get in the squat rack. So I was milling about, doing bits of other stuff while I waited for the rack to become available. So because of that, my eyes were up and I was looking around, and some of the techniques and just issues you see, you're just I forgot what it's like being in a commercial gym setting, people walking out their knees on the leg press. Some guy was in the chest press machine, and I kid you not, for those of you that are listening on audio, go and check out the video to see this. So he was in the chest press machine, locked in. This was his range of motion. And he had it right to the top. And it was just I was I can't tell if he's doing that on purpose or not. Really, really can't tell. And he got off it and just it's been some horrendous things that I've spotted in the gym. But then again, the guys that work in there know I'm a PT. So I also don't want to stand on anyone's toes by going, oh, look, mate, let me just help you out with that. Just because there is PTs in there, and I've done it before at a different gym where then the PT came over to me and was like, what are you doing? The guy had shopping for me, he's going to hurt himself. He was like, okay, but that's my job to do. You don't work here. I was like, okay, that's fine.
This is a good one, because I've had this pop up. It's always a heated debate when it goes on. I'm of the opinion, not necessarily I'd only give advice if you pay me or all this kind of stuff. It's not about that. It's more just I won't say anything unless they ask, which I guess maybe I should see myself that I could help people and all that kind of shit. But I'm kind of if people want to do that kind of stuff, I'm kind of maybe one day it will come around to it. But you kind of hope maybe, it's happened to me before where we trained the gym for a while and you're both going at the same times, and then suddenly they might see you train or see the people you're training and then start to think, okay, well, maybe I'm not doing this that great. Or it might even start with, why do you do it that way? And I always find that's where it kind of develops. But I used to be very much I can't let them do it with this form and all that. And it's I've hurt myself plenty of fucking times with good form. Do you know what I mean? People are going to get hurt sometimes. It could be a volume thing. It could be you're not ready for the load. My form is fairly good, and I've still hurt myself several times. And I've seen people with horrendous form get away with it for a very long time as well. So I kind of think, if they want to lift that way and they're happy not making progress and not wanting to get better, fair enough. I mean, I look back when I started, I'm like, oh God, this is brilliant. We stuck into the local gym. We didn't actually pay. It was like a council gym, but they always left the door open, and we just always used to sneak in. But I would go on the step. Do you remember that? It was like the stepper machine. It's not the continuous staircase. It's almost like a cross trainer, but you have to keep pushing continually to keep it moving. So we both went on that, me and my mate. And I'd push it completely down all the way time. So you weren't actually doing anything. You were just letting it sink all the way down, then going to the next step all the way down. I did that for 5-10 minutes till some guy was like, what are you doing? I was like, have you got a pass? I was like, and then I sort of just left. But it was just, it's so funny. Basically, I didn't have a clue. Squatting wise, I didn't learn how to squat properly till I was fucking 30, mate. It took years. It's you never know where people are in their journey per se. I'm sure you could, if you had a video camera looking back at some of the shit you used to do.
Oh yeah, there's a video on my YouTube channel actually of me the first time I ever did 140 kilos, 140 kilo box squat, and it's my local spit and sawdust gym, and the mobility in my shoulders is so bad that I can't grip the bar. I have to do a crucifix grip, and as well, my knees aren't getting to proper depth. Yeah, I was ecstatic with that. Like the first time I ever did 3 plates on the bar. Right, let's go on to the next question. We can talk about the training stuff all day. Right. So again from James, does it matter how you get your protein in? I get a lot of mine from shakes, but heard people say it's better to get from real foods. However, whey protein is just a byproduct of real food, so surely there is no difference. This is assuming you're already getting all the other nutrients and vitamins in. So this is an interesting one because there's 2 ways to look at it. You've got what's called the bioavailability of food, which is basically how effectively your body will absorb the protein from its source. Like the number 1 bioavailable food is like, I think it's eggs, which is like nearly 100% bioavailability. The next one, I'm pretty sure, is beef.
Beef's a superfood.
It goes eggs, beef, and then whey. And then everything else falls into line after that, like chicken, fish, things like that. So yes, you can get a decent amount of your protein from whey protein shakes. However, I probably wouldn't recommend it unless you were on over 160, 200 grams of protein a day. It's very, very easy to get in 140-ish grams of protein.
Oh fuck! It's easy to get in 200 grams of protein a day.
Yeah.
I almost get not angry at people, or just like, well, what are you doing? Like, why can't you eat food? Like, there's plenty of 5% cuts of beef available. There's even 3% now. There's chicken breasts. You know, I kind of for those who don't follow Stan everything. He's around on the internet. You know, whether you like him or love him, he's got maybe some polarizing stuff, but like, you know, his famous tagline is, you know, shakes for fakes. And you know, you could go completely to the other spectrum and say, oh yeah, of course you wouldn't have a shake, it's not real food, etc. But you know, they have their place. You know, I have them all the time.
Fast food. It's convenient.
It's fast.
That's
it's convenient.
all a shake should be.
Exactly. But at the same time, if your diet's mostly about shakes, it's not a good thing. I do it sometimes. You know, I've had days where I've probably had, I'm on my fucking 3rd protein shake of the day, purely because I'm either doing something, I've got the kids, or I haven't got food in the house to sort out. So it does happen. But if that's your all the time, I don't think that's great, because you know, things like beef, it's not just about the protein. It's got, like, you know, iron, zinc, riboflavin, vitamin B vitamins, magnesium, potassium, which shakes don't have. So you got to look at the quality of your food. Like, this is where things got a bit upside down with if it fits your macros, because yes, that's right, you know, it is the most important thing. We talk about it all the time: nutrition, calories, the king, all that kind of stuff. But what you make, the food you eat to make those calories up, is so important. Like the quality, you know, the leucine content, the quality, as you said, the bioavailability, is it nutrient dense? Like beef is like a fucking superfood. It's full of so much good stuff. You know, throw green veggie with that and you're laughing. But
I eat 5% beef pretty much every day.
Oh mate, I probably, the vegans gonna hate me, but I probably have about 1 kilo of beef a day, like every single day. It's the creatine's in there as well. It's like, it's not a question of I feel strong on beef or that. It's such like, logically, when I look at it, and there's so much good stuff in it, I'm like, well, why wouldn't I eat it? I know there's, you know, the people talk about, you know, cancers and all that kind of stuff, but that's like another discussion, which I think it'd be cool to maybe get a nutritional scientist on to talk about. That'd be pretty fun. We'll try and find a guest. But I'm just like, well, yeah, I'm gonna have that most days, if not every day. It just works. So shakes are great. I always have a bag of whey in the house. It's just easy to put in. But yeah, I mean, food is king. Absolutely.
It's basically try to have a structure where shakes supplement it. That's what it is. It's a supplement. So you should try, if you are planning your food, you should plan for as much real food as possible. But again, like, I've got clients that when they wake up first thing in the morning, they can't eat for that first hour, whereas I need them to get some protein in. So they then might have a smoothie for breakfast, in which case then put in some whey protein, a banana, some oats, and some peanut butter into a blender and getting something in them first thing in the morning. It's better than them skipping breakfast. something that I have like last thing at night is about 150 grams of Greek yogurt with some whey protein, a little bit of dark chocolate and some frozen berries. Because again, it gets rid of that sweet tooth that I have at the moment because I'm dieting really hard. So it's just a tool, but it shouldn't be the be all and end all. And yeah, at the end of the day, like supplements companies are going to try and tell you that to take their supplement all the time because that makes them money. But yeah, real food should be your number one priority. However, shakes are great. So it's a it is not well. I don't think we've really answered this question there because we've just gone, well, you've gone, well, I've gone, I like both. You've gone, I like real food. So yeah,
I would say
drink plenty of protein shakes.
Fuck that beef.
Yeah, you want to be a power lifter, eat lots of beef.
No, man, bodybuilders as well. Fucking get on the steaks.
I'm joking. So last question from James Home Gym. If you could only get one piece of gym machinery / equipment outside of the standard things, rack, cable, dumbbells, barbell weights, what would you recommend? I know this one, landmine. I think having a landmine attachment that attaches onto your rack or onto the floor or in some plates or whatever, like it adds such a large amount of variety in just from like one piece of equipment, which with a home gym, like that's the thing you should be looking for. It's like, right, what bits of kit can I get that are going to give me the most bang for my buck that I can use for 10 different exercises? It's not just like a leg extension, which can be used for 2 exercises. So yeah, that's my one. What about you?
I think aside from the obvious, either a log, I'm just sort of looking at what I'm doing at my gym now, probably a log. I think you can do a lot with that. Or I've got this new kettlebell I'm sort of trying out where it's a double-handed kettlebell, but it's got a handle inside it as well. I think that'd be really fun. Yeah, I think it's an overbell. I'll see if I can find the website and stuff. But yeah, it's meant like it's a double-handed kettlebell, 25k, but you can put your hand in it, so you can do like you can like snatch it with your hand and press it and all that kind of stuff. So I'm quite impressed with that. So I think if you were literally just after like one tool, it would probably be that outside of the basics. So I guess we're talking bench, bar, weights, rackles, covered dumbbells, barbells. So yeah, I'd probably say the double-handed and hand inside kettlebell. I'll have to work out what it's called. I have to find it. Yeah, I'll end up putting a review on my YouTube for that one, I think. Yeah. So yeah, I would get that. It's bloody mint.
Yeah, I'll get Dan to send me the link to that and I'll put it in the show notes. Okay, so Chris Robinson, you guys going to try out each other's worlds. The people want to see Deej do a strongman comp and Dan posing on stage. So
no one wants to see that.
I think I might try out your world. Definitely.
Mate. Yeah.
Yeah, either next year or the year after, I'll probably do some sort of strength block / powerlifting block. And then there was actually a local strongman competition about a month or 2 ago.
Mm-hmm.
That had a novice class. And then, so yeah, I'll probably try out strongman when I've basically I was about 6 weeks into prep. So I wasn't exactly going to be at my strongest. And it just didn't make sense because it would have disrupted what we were doing prep-wise. Whereas this time next year, I won't be prepping. So yes, you will see me doing a strongman comp. And so Dan, we're going to get you in some posing trunks.
I don't know. I think it's going to be. It would be hard. I think my aim is to look like an off-season bodybuilder. Like just be fucking lean and have abs and swole and feel good about yourself and be confident. I think like bodybuilding is no joke. Like as you know, it's freaking full on and it's quite something. I'm not sure it's something I would choose to do with my current life. I think it would be
I was going to say
too much.
with 3 kids, as a few of my clients have found, they've decided to prep, and I've pre-warned them about how much it takes over your life. Like, and it does.
Yeah.
And it doesn't just take over your life for the 16 weeks of prep, it takes over your life for about 18 months. Because you've got your initial recon, then like a building phase to put you in the right place to then prep. If you don't do that bit, prep will be god awful. The mistake a lot of people make is they only hire a coach for prep, and a good prep coach will never take on somebody that they haven't run their off season for. So if anybody is looking at competing as a bodybuilder, start looking for a coach about 18 months, 12 to 18 months ahead of when you want to compete. Because what they'll probably need to do is they'll need to assess your physique where it is. 9 times out of 10, you're going to need to go on a mini cut to just pull off some body fat so that they can then run your off season, bring your food up really, really high, so that then when you then start dieting, your food is high, your activity is low, and there's lots that they can do. If you go straight into a prep, just kind of doing what you're doing, if you're running 4 sessions of cardio a week and only eating 2,500 calories a day, then like you're just going to diet yourself into the ground, and it's going to be an awful experience. So yeah, if you ever approach a prep coach like to do your prep when they haven't done your off season and then just go, yeah, that's fine, like that should be some serious alarm bells, because they should be questioning, no, I probably shouldn't do this just because I'm going to destroy you and I'm going to destroy your relationship with food. Because as Dan said, like prep is no joke. Like when you get into those final 4 to 6 weeks, like you have some serious questions about just life in general, and the people around you need to be aware that you're going to be a bit of an arsehole for about 6 months. So
yeah, it's pretty brutal. I think like people don't realize, maybe they do, just how lean you have to get if you want to be competitive, or even just turn up on stage. Like to get like lean for abs on holiday, it's I would say if you really wanted to,
where I'm at now,
everyone could do it. Yeah,
12 weeks of dieting ahead.
Well, that's it. Like that's the yeah, to just sort of get abs on holiday is it's a good goal. I think if you really wanted to, I would say pretty much every man could get around to that point. The 10 to 12% of like abs, maybe some oblique show, that kind of stuff. That's not bodybuilding. That's what I would call an off-season bodybuilder, where they're still kind of like leanish. But it's when to get to that like striated glutes, it's like you're going to places like it's going to be a dark place. And I think a lot of people, I wouldn't say muck up their cuts, but the tiniest thing can set it all off. We're talking about, you guys have been talking about salt and that kind of stuff and manipulation, but it's not, your body does not want to be 3 to 6% body fat. It just doesn't want it. So you're really fighting against yourself to get that lean on stage.
It gets uncomfortable when you get under 10% body fat, just because, as you said, every instinct in your body is telling you to eat more and do less, whereas you keep doing more and eating less to get to that point where, as you said, you've got striations on your glutes. Like that's the what do you call it? That's the aim now with kind of like bodybuilding. And looking back at my photos last time, like I tried to prep too quickly last time. So my first show, I was so stressed and so stringy. And then by the second show, which I think was 6 weeks later, I'd then been dieting for 17, 18 weeks at that point. And I looked so much better, even though I was 2 kilos heavier, because I'd got down to very lean very quickly, but then I could just stay there. So I was just pulling off a little bit more body fat, got some glycogen back in, so I kind of filled back out. So then I was actually lean at like, I think it was like 71, 72 kilos, whereas at my lightest, I hit 69 kilos, whereas the highest of my off season this year was 83. So I think my settling point, like when I stop competing and stop trying to like go up and come down, would be around the 75 to 77 kilos mark. And that's like a good, like healthy weight for me, where I will be balanced. I can still have a beer on the weekend, still can have a takeaway, but I look like I'm in decent shape.
Yeah, true. Yeah. I'm trying to think with me, like, I think I've got to get to around 110, 112K. I mean, I'm 100, I think it was 118 this morning. And so I'm just trying to look at that picture I took earlier. It's kind of like, yeah, I still think I've got about 8 kg, maybe 6 to 8 kg to go. So I'm kind of in that, looking half decent at the top of kind of look. I'm like, fuck, that's quite a bit of, weight. We're talking, that's like 20 to 30 pounds I've still got to get rid of. And that's even before I would even attempt to start the cut to a bodybuilding show. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just, it's another level.
It's definitely an undertaking, and I think, as you said, a lot of people like the idea of it until they get, as you said, balls deep into the diet, and they're like, this sucks, my life sucks, I hate everything about my life, I don't want to do this anymore. So like, the people you see on stage deserve a hell of a lot of respect. Like, if you ever go to a bodybuilding show and somebody is on stage and they look like they belong there, remember there's 5 other people that tried to diet and didn't make it to that point. Like, the dropout rate is really, really high. Like, I've known many guys that have gone out on social media being like, yes, I'm doing my first show, blah blah blah, gets to however long into it, and they go, oh, but basically I'm pulling out because of XYZ reason, because it literally does take over your life. Like, bodybuilding's the one sport where
it's 24/7.
It's 24/7. It's not just that one day of competing. It's every meal, every training session, getting your sleep, managing your stress. You've got to manage your entire life, because you are literally being judged on the outcome of every single one of those very small decisions. Every single one of those decisions is like building your wall, and you've got to lay each one of those bricks as perfectly as you can. Dorian Yates describes it like bodybuilding as like building a wall. Getting your steps in is one brick. Every meal is one brick. Every training session is one brick. If you fuck up one of those bricks, it's going to have a knock-on effect to then all the other things that are in there. There's not many sports where it can be like, right, I can have one bad day and it could have a knock-on effect to the result that I get in 6 months' time.
Yeah, it's 24/7. That meme's going around of Rick and Morty at the moment of like, so it's like bodybuilding but without the discipline, and you just lift the weights and sit down. It's like, you son of a bitch, I'm in. It's like pretty much true. Yeah, pretty much true. It's
That's powerlifting. It's like bodybuilding without the dietary
and discipline. Yeah, you're like, yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I mean, I've had this big kind of almost like a shift in mindset where I was like, fuck, if you if you actually want to, like, I wouldn't say take this seriously, but like, if it's like the way I try to approach things sometimes is it more important for me to do this or to do that? And then when you try and think of it that way, it kind of helps you get towards a decision. Maybe not necessarily be the right decision, but it will help you to get to a decision. So, for example, drinking at the weekends, it's just something I was do all the time, a few cans, all that kind of shit. But it was starting to get a bit annoying seeing the weight gain on a Monday. It would come off, but at the same time, if I'm getting that a lot heavier every Monday and then it's taking me to Friday to get back down again, my progress is almost to the point where it's not actually going forward, and it's actually kind of at such a slow pace that it's like not motivating at all. It's almost like I almost had this decision where I was like, it's going to make me now happier to not do that and progress on, scale or body, whatever I want to look at, like, it could be anything. I was like, it would actually make me feel better to do that. That means more to me than this quick fix of eating something shit, drinking those. I mean, God, yeah, I'm still going to eat stuff, I'm quite flexible with my diet, but it's that you're always having to make choices, and your choices are either taking you closer to your goal or further away from your goal. It might be at one point you need to make that choice to take you further away for the bigger picture. Fair enough, but you get back on it the next day. So if you can kind of break things down into, I want to do this thing to get me to the next point, those sort of quick wins build. So choosing the right meal, not overeating, maybe having, like today, one wagon wheel instead of all the wagon wheels and things, little things like that. Decent biscuit, by the way. I haven't had it for years.
I've
I haven't had
not
it for
had
years.
a wagon wheel since I was like 12.
But my wife came back with them, and I was like, yeah, these macros are very good as well. Like very not a lot, because it's kind of basically marshmallow and like a little wafer thing, and then a tiny coat. I was like, decent. So I was like, I'd rather do that. So so watching the football, I had one beer instead of a 4-pack of beers. So it's kind of like just little things like that, and they do add up. They really do, because this is where macro try. If you look at IFYM, it's basically like, if we really think about it, it's like maybe just like have moderation and don't eat like a child, or don't get overexcited when you eat things. It's like, if we just ate the way we've been wanting to, or should be have been for years, we wouldn't have this big problem. Of course, there's lots of other things like psychological factors. It's a freaking billion-pound industry, the fitness industry, because we're still trying to work it all out, right? But it is basically comes down to, right, maybe don't overeat, or if you're having dinner, right, maybe not a massive bowl of it, just a smaller bowl. It's crazy, huh? Right, eat less and all that. But it really is like stacked on top. Like, it really does make a difference. Like, instead of the net calories of the week, just having a lot less of what you would like to eat.
So I was at a seminar with Lucas Sheehan, I think his name is, like achieved some amazing like transformations while working in basically a Pure Gym in London. So he put on like a seminar to be like, right, this is how you get results, blah blah blah. Actually, the one thing that I took away from that seminar is that tracking sheet that is now used in the spreadsheets that on the group things. Where people put in like their daily weights, and it does the average and then the percentages, and then same thing for steps and all that. That's like the one thing that I brought into my business from that, is that level of data that kind of comes in. But anyways, he called it if it fits your macros and not be a greedy bastard as well. So it's one of those where you can eat anything you want and lose weight. Just don't be silly with it. Like, flexible dieting is amazing in that you can eat a fairly normal diet. It doesn't mean that you should then go and figure out how to get pizza and ice cream and chips into your diet every single day. It's just that it's that 80-20 rule again. So if 80% of the food that you eat is nutrient dense, single ingredient foods that you could have got 200 years ago if you wanted to, then you can have fun with the 20%. You can have some beers on a weekend and it not undo all your progress. You can have a takeaway, as long as it doesn't become like a weekly thing, and it not undo all your progress. It's designed to be flexible, but the principles of like eating well are still in there. It just means that you can have a burger and it not be you falling off your diet. So it takes away that taboo of this is naughty food, this is food I'm not allowed, which is then when people get into these over restrictive and then binging cycles, because they don't have it, they give in and have a little bit, so they have a biscuit, and then your subconscious is thinking, you've had one, you may as well have another, and next thing they know, the entire packet's gone. Whereas if you'd have just said, right, okay, tonight I'm factoring in 2 digestives into my diet, and then it's done and it's allowed because I've accounted for it and it's in there. In theory, that should put the dampeners on you then eating that entire pack of biscuits. If it doesn't, then don't eat trigger foods. Some people just can't have trigger foods in until they kind of learn that discipline of it. So for example, I eat dark chocolate, like 75-80% dark chocolate, because I don't know if you've ever tried to binge eat on dark chocolate, but you will vomit everywhere and it will not be a nice experience.
Challenge accepted.
If you get the 90% coca stuff and try and binge eat on it.
that's different. And like you said, like green and black's like even 80%. I'm just like, chocolate fiends. So
in my last prep, I got like the Bourneville dark chocolate. that's not dark chocolate. Like, that isn't dark chocolate. It's way too sweet. I ended up eating far too much of it. I was like, right, I can't do that again. Right, 3 hours of cardio for me this week. And yeah, don't get into that cycle either. That was a horrible place I was in for like 4 weeks, where I'd end up like overeating slightly on food and then trying to overdo it on cardio, but then it compounds because your coach is already adding in more cardio. And that completely destroyed my relationship with cardio. Now I hate it. So that best hot sauce going. This is the best thing that I found in this prep, called Encona. Very low calorie, very tasty. I'm just moving all this stuff. So the last one question is from Sam. I believe this is directed at you. You'll have to do a little bit of explaining the backstory of this, because I don't 100% understand why Sam is so fascinated with your denim shorts collection. So Samuel Archer's put, I think the best thing for everyone is for Dan to do like an MTV Cribs for his collection of denim shorts, then you two short play 45 minutes of gay chicken.
Wow.
I know that escalated quickly.
Got some underlying stuff there, so I think I've only got one pair, to be honest. It's a nice pair from Top Man. My wife got me a few years ago. It all started because in last lockdown, back when I could actually deadlift, I used to deadlift in my shorts because I would wear them during the day, and if I'm honest, I was that fucking lazy. I didn't change out of them to train in the evening, so I started lifting in denim shorts, and it just kind of blew people's minds. And then it was just always like became a sort of thing. But they were just kind of work. It's like they were kind of that stretchy denim, so they fit well. But it just so happened when I was wearing those shorts, I was actually quite strong when I was wearing. I was like, repping 240, repping 250, and I was feeling really good. So the shorts became kind of, if it's good, just stick with it. So I just kept wearing them when I was training. So I kept wearing denim shorts for deadlifting. Now I don't deadlift. I don't really train in denim shorts. I mean, I'll bench in them. Actually, no, I've benched some PBs in denim shorts as well. Yeah, purely because I was just wearing them. I like the way they look. But that's how that one all came about. Just from lockdown a couple of years ago. Yeah, I had this video. It was like I suddenly shaved my head. I was wearing like a sort of cut off t-shirt and denim shorts. I looked like fucking like Kurt Angle or something. just ripping deads. Yeah, it was a bit of a different look for me, shall we say. But,
so yeah, guys, whoever's listening to this, did you post that video in the home gym group?
I might have done, yeah. I think I did.
So if anybody could tag me in that video, I will dig it out and make sure that everybody can see Dan deadlifting in denim shorts. We'll bring that back to the top of the feed. So yes, your homework, guys, is for somebody to go trolling through Dan's old posts, find the one of him deadlifting in denim shorts, and tag me in it, because I'm sure somebody out there's probably got a lot more time than I do. But yeah, it's been great.
Good fun. Awesome. Right, I'm gonna go squat.
Where can the people find you, Mr. Frazier?
Instagram, Barbells and Beans, Facebook, Dan Frazier.
And for myself, it is DeegePT on both Instagram and Facebook. It's been a pleasure, as always. We covered a good few questions there, and I'll probably speak to you before next week, but I will see you next week. And to all the listeners, we will see you all next week.
Okay, buddy. Peace.
Bye.
Bye.